boys and girls, and all of God's children. Welcome to the Church School Neighborhood. I'm Sister Angie Spears, the excited Church School Superintendent. What a wonderful, wonderful lesson we have for you. We are in our spring quarter, and the title of our quarter is Social Teachings of the Church. And our lesson today is titled Helping Neighbors in Need. We all know what that means, to help others, right? Our lesson today comes from Deuteronomy chapter 15, verses 4 through 11, and then Matthew chapter 25, verses 42 through 45. And our very special word for today is a phrase, help the needy. Help the needy. Well, in today's lesson, when we're in the book of Deuteronomy, God is speaking to the people through Moses. Moses is the one that God gave the Ten Commandments to, telling the people the things that they should do. Well, as we continue in this book, God is telling the people how to treat the poor people. And he says, open your hand to the poor and to the needy, meaning help the people who are poor. Don't treat them badly. And then when we get into the New Testament and we're in Matthew, it's Jesus. And Jesus is telling us how important it is to treat those who are poor decently. And he says to the people, I was sick and you didn't help me. I didn't have a home and you didn't take me in. I was in jail and you didn't visit me. And the people said, Jesus, when did we see you sick or in jail or without a home? And he says, as much as you saw other people that were sick and you didn't help them, it was the same as you not helping me. If you saw someone that needed something and you didn't give it to them, that was the same as me needing something and you not giving it to them. And Jesus is stressing to us the importance of helping our neighbors and helping those who are poor and those who are in need. Well, it is Daisy who has the very, very best example of our lesson today. Daisy, why don't you share what you shared with me? It was about 2 years ago that a family in Daisy's neighborhood have fallen on hard times. What does that mean? Well, in this particular instance, both the mother and the father had lost their jobs. They worked for the same company, and it was a few weeks before Christmas that the company announced that they had to let a lot of people go. They weren't going to be employed anymore. Well, when Daisy and Buttercup's mom heard about it, what did she do? Belle went to the church. She got the missionaries together, and she didn't stop there. She went to some of the other churches in the town and talked to their missionaries and said, we really need to help the families. And they picked one family in particular that they helped, not just that one, but one in particular that they really helped. And they made certain they had a wonderful meal for Christmas. They made certain that the children had presents. And they even gave them a nice amount of cash to help them through the next few weeks. Well, it was, I think it was maybe the beginning of February that particular mom saw Belle in the supermarket and said to her, I cannot begin to thank you for what you did. Thank you so much. And what did she say to your mom? She said, you know what? You made me really believe in people again, that people really care. Then she asked Belle, what church do you go to? Can I come? Well, not only did she visit the church, she and her family joined the church, and they have been members of that church for the whole time that they love being a part of the church. And it's because of the love of God that they saw through Belle and the other members who really reached out to help them. Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Daisy. Daisy actually has 2 stories to share. What was the other story, Daisy? Well, this one is about Daisy. Daisy says that it was the beginning of this school year. The school had planned a excursion, a field trip to go see the play Annie. And so that it starts out with the permission slips. And in order to go, well, it was a little pricey because you had to pay $45 for the student. Their parent had to go unless another parent from the class took them with. So you're talking $90 just for, Daisy wants to go and her mom has to go. That's $90. Well, Daisy noticed that one of the little girls was so sad the day the permission slips were due. And Daisy asked, "What's wrong?" And the little girl said, my family doesn't have the money. My mom says they don't have that kind of money to spend on just me. I have other brothers and sisters. Well, Daisy felt kind of bad, and she went home and told her mom. And what did your mom do? Mom, Belle, called the little girl's mom and talked to her and says, "Would you be okay if your daughter went with us? We'll pay for it, and I can chaperone her to be with us. Would that be okay with you?" The mother said, "Certainly." And oh my goodness, the little girl was so happy. And Daisy says she even talks about it almost all the time. There's almost not a day that goes by that she thinks of something from the play and mentions it to Daisy. "Remember this? Remember when Annie did this?" It was such a wonderful thing to do. So all of those things are ways that we can help others that are in need. And that is exactly what Jesus has asked us to do. Let's take a look at our memory verse. The memory verse is in Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 11, and we've cut it down just a little bit. "Open your hand to the poor and the needy neighbor in your land." So we're using the second part of the verse. Open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your hand. Do you think you can fill that out when some of the words are missing? Let's see. Open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land. That's God telling us when we see people that need things, be generous, open up, and give. Don't turn our backs on them. Excellent, excellent. I know that you're going to have a wonderful church school class as you look at this lesson and you think of ways that you can be even more helpful to those who are poor and needy. We trust that you will join us on next week. Next week, our lesson is titled, "All Are One in Christ," and our lesson comes from Acts chapter 10 and Galatians chapter 3. Until then, have a blessed week. God bless you. Bye-bye.